Thank you very much. On behalf of the great Empire State and the whole family of New York, let me thank you for the great privilege of being able to address this convention. Please allow me to skip the stories and the poetry and the temptation to deal in nice but vague rhetoric. Let me instead use this valuable opportunity to deal with immediately with the questions that should determine this election and, as we all know, are vital to the American people. 10 days ago, President Reagan admitted that although some people in this country seem to be doing well nowadays, others were unhappy, even worried, about themselves, their families, and their futures. The president said he didn't understand that fear. Why? He said, "This country is a shining city on a hill." And the president is right. In many ways, we are a shining city on a hill. But the hard truth is that not everyone is sharing in this city's splendor and glory. A shining city is perhaps all the president sees from the portico of the White House and the veranda of his ranch, where everyone seems to be doing well. But there's another city, another part to the shining city, another place where people can't pay their mortgages, and most young people can't afford one, where students can't afford the education they need, and middle-class families, parents, watch the dreams that they had for their children evaporate. In this part of the city, there are more poor than ever, more families in trouble, more and more people who need help but can't find it. Even worse, there are elderly who tremble in the basements of the houses there. And there are people who sleep in the city streets, in the gutter, where the glitter doesn't show. There are ghettos where thousands of young people without a job or an education give their lives away to drug dealers every day. There is despair, Mr. President, in the faces that you don't see, in the places you don't visit in your shining city. Mr. President, you ought to know that this is more a tale of two cities than it is just a shining city on a hill. Maybe, Mr. President, if you went to visit some more places, maybe if you went to Appalachia where some people still live in sheds, or if you went to Lackawanna where thousands of unemployed steelworkers wonder why we subsidize foreign steel. Maybe, Mr. President, if you went to a shelter in Chicago and spoke to the homeless there. Maybe, Mr. President, if you asked a woman who had been denied the help she needed to feed her children because you said we needed the money for a tax break for a millionaire or for a missile we couldn't afford to use. Maybe, Mr. President, but I'm afraid not. Because the truth is, ladies and gentlemen, this is how we were warned it would be. President Reagan told us from the very beginning that he believed in a type of social Darwinism, survival of the fittest. Government can't do anything, we were told, so it should settle for taking care of the strong and hope that economic ambition and charity will do the rest. Make the rich richer, we were told, and whatever falls from the table will be enough for the middle class and those who are trying desperately to get out of the middle class. You know, the Republicans call it trickle-down when Hoover tried it. Now they call it supply-side. But it's a shame city for those relative few who are lucky enough to live in its good neighborhoods. But for the people who are excluded, for the people who are locked out, all they can do is stare from a distance at that city's glimmering towers. It's an old story. It's as old as our history. The difference between Democrats and Republicans has always been measured in courage and confidence. The Republicans would have us believe that the wagon train will not make it into the frontier unless some of the old, some of the weak, some of the sick are excluded. But for those, the strong, they tell us, will inherit the land. And only if they're left by the side of the trail will we get to that frontier. But we Democrats believe something else. We Democrats believe that we can make it all the way with the whole family intact, and we've done it more than once. Ever since Franklin Roosevelt lifted himself out of his wheelchair and left this nation from its knees, wagon train after wagon train, to new frontiers of education, housing, peace, the whole family board constantly reaching out to extend and to enlarge that family, lifting up every wagon onto the way, blacks and Hispanic and people of every ethnic group, and Native Americans, all those struggling to build their families and claim some small share of America. For nearly 50 years, we carried them all to new levels of comfort and security and dignity, even affluence. And for nearly 50 years, some of us in this room, we must be reminded today, are here only because the nation had that kind of confidence. And it would be wrong to forget that. We speak for the minorities, those who have not yet entered the mainstream. We speak for ethnics who want to add their culture to the magnificent mosaic of America. We speak for women who are indignant that this nation refuses to etch in its governmental commandments the simple rule that thou shalt not sin against equality. A rule so simple, in fact, I was going to say, perhaps I dare not, but I will. It's a commandment so simple, it can be spelled in 3 letters, E-R-A. We speak for young people who demand an education and a future. We speak for senior citizens. We speak for senior citizens who are terrorized by the idea that their only security, their social security, is being threatened. We speak for millions of reasoning people fighting to preserve our environment from greed and frenzied stupidity. We speak for reasonable people who are fighting to preserve our very existence against a macho belief that refuses to make intelligent attempts to discuss the possibility of nuclear holocaust with our enemy. They refuse. They refuse because they believe we can pile missiles so high that they will pierce the clouds and that the sight of them will frighten our enemies into submission. Now, we're proud of the diversity as Democrats. We're grateful for it. We don't have to manufacture it the way the Republicans will do next, Dallas, by propping up mannequin delegates on a convention floor. But we're proud of this diversity, and we pay a price for it. The difference is people that we represent have different points of view, and sometimes they compete and even debate and even argue. But that's what our primaries are all about. But now the primaries are over, and it is time when we pick our candidates and our platform here to lock arms and move this campaign together. We believe in a government that is characterized by fairness and reasonableness, a reasonableness that goes beyond labels, that doesn't distort the things we do or what we know we can't do. We believe that it is a government that is characterized by fairness and reasonableness, a reasonableness that goes beyond labels. We believe in a government that is strong enough to use words like love and compassion, and smart enough to convert our noblest aspirations into practical realities. We believe in encouraging the talented, but we also believe that the survival of the fittest would be a working description of the process of evolution. A government of humans should elevate itself to a higher order. Our government should be able to rise to the level where it can fill the gaps that are left by the chance or by wisdom who doesn't fully understand. We would rather have laws that are written by the patron of this great city, a man called the world's most sincere Democrat, St. Francis of Assisi, than laws written by Darwin. We believe as Democrats that a society as blessed as ours, the most affluent democracy in this world's history, one that can spend trillions on instruments of destruction, ought to be able to help the middle class in its struggles, ought to be able to find work for those who can do it, room at the table, shelter for the homeless, care for the elderly and infirm, and hope for the destitute. And we proclaim as loudly as we utter insanity of nuclear proliferation and the need for a nuclear freeze, if only to affirm the simple truth that peace is better than war because life is better than death. We believe in a firm but fair law and order. We believe proudly in the union movement. We believe in privacy for people, openness in government. We believe in civil rights, and we believe in human rights. We believe in the single fundamental idea that describes better than most textbooks and any speech I could ever write what a proper government should be. The idea of a family, mutually, the sharing of benefits and burdens and good to all, feeling one another's pain, sharing one another's blessings, reasonable, honesty, fairly, without respect for race or sex or geography or political affiliation. We believe we must be the family of America, recognizing that at the heart of the matter, we are bound by one another, that the problems of a retired school teacher in Duluth is our problems, that the future of a child in Buffalo is our future, that the struggle for a disabled man in Boston to survive is our struggle, that the hunger of a woman in Little Rock is our hunger, that the failure anywhere to provide what we reasonably might to avoid pain is our failure. For 50 years, we Democrats have created a better future for our children using traditional democratic principles as a fixed beginning, giving us direction and purpose, but constantly innovating, adapting to new realities. Roosevelt's alphabet programs, Truman's NATO and the GI Bill of Rights, Kennedy's intelligent tax, and the Alliance of Progress, Johnson's civil rights, Carter's human rights, and the near miraculous Camp David Accord. Democrats did it, and Democrats can do it again. We can build a future that deals with our deficit. The struggle to deal with dignity is the real story in the Shining City. And it's a story, ladies and gentlemen, that I didn't read in a book or learn in a classroom. I saw it and lived it, like many of you. I watched a small man with thick calluses with both his hands work 15 and 16 hours a day. I saw once him literally bleed from the bottom of his seat. A man who had been uneducated, alone, unable to even speak the language, who taught me all I needed to know about faith and hard work. By the simple eloquence of his example, I learned from our kind of democracy from my father. They asked only the chance to work and to make the world better for their children. We believe in the family of America, recognizing that at the heart of the matter, we are bound by one another. That the problems of a retired school teacher in Duluth are our problems. That the future of our children in Buffalo is our future. That the struggle of a disabled man in Boston to live is our struggle. That the hunger of a woman in Little Rock is our hunger. And that our failure to provide what reasonably we might to avoid pain is our failure.